Captain Jake Morrison felt his anger building as he sat at the strange crystal table.
Ow.
The alien voices around him buzzed and clicked through their translation machines. For 6 long months, he had listened to the same complaints over and over. Again, every problem in the galaxy was somehow humanity's fault. The meeting room on Harmony Prime Station was huge and cold. 12 different alien species sat around the circular table, each one pointing their claws, tentacles, or whatever they had at the small human group. Jake looked at Ambassador Lisa Harper sitting next to him. Her face showed the same tired frustration he felt. The Zephyrian delegate spoke first, as usual. His metal body gleamed under the strange lights as his voice came through the translator. In harsh, choppy sounds, the humans continue to expand into our territories without permission. Their aggressive behavior has caused 3 trade wars in the past year alone. Jake wanted to laugh, but he kept his mouth shut. The Zephyrians had been the ones starting fights over shipping routes. They charged other species huge fees to use space lanes that had been free for centuries. When smaller species complained, the Zephyrians threatened them with their war fleets. The Aquarian representative slithered forward on her many tentacles. Her wet gray skin glistened as she spoke. Human military ships patrol areas where they have no right to be. They interfere with our natural order of things. Their presence makes other species think they can challenge established powers. Ambassador Harper finally spoke up. Natural order? You mean the order where you flood entire planets to make them suitable for your species? Where you force land-dwelling races to live underwater or die? The Aquarian's tentacles writhed in anger. We bring civilization to primitive worlds. Humans bring chaos. Jake had heard enough. He stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the crystal floor. The sound made several aliens jump. Chaos. Let me tell you about chaos. He walked to the center of the room where a holographic display showed the galaxy map. With a gesture, he brought up the conflict zones from the past year. Red dots appeared. Across hundreds of star systems. The hegemony invaded 6 neutral worlds this year, Jake said, pointing to a cluster of red dots. They enslaved the populations and stripped the planets bare. When we offered to mediate, you told us to stay out of it. The insect-like hegemony queen clicked her mandibles angrily. Those worlds harbored criminals who stole from our hives. We had every right to reclaim our property. Property. Lisa Harper stood up now, too. Those were people, not things. Entire families were sold into slavery because some of them couldn't pay your impossible taxes, Jay continued, pointing at the map. The Silicon Collective melted 3 space stations because the residents wouldn't accept their new mining contracts. 8,000 beings died in the vacuum of space. When we sent rescue ships, you called it human interference. The crystal-like silicoid delegate hummed in frequencies that hurt human ears. Business disputes require firm solutions. Soft human methods only encourage more rebellion. Soft methods? Jake's voice rose. We negotiated a deal that would have given the collective the mining rights they wanted while letting the station residents relocate safely. Instead, you chose murder. The bird-like avian delegate ruffled her golden feathers nervously. She had been mostly quiet during these talks, but now she spoke in her musical voice. Perhaps the humans have a point. The galaxy has become more violent in recent years. This brought angry sounds from around the table. The gas-based Nebulan swirled faster in his containment suit, making whooshing noises. The reptilian draconian delegates hissed and showed their sharp teeth. The avians have been corrupted by human influence, spat the lead draconian. Before humans arrived, disputes were settled quickly through strength. Now weak species think they can challenge their betters. Jake looked around the room at all the angry alien faces. You want to know what the real problem is? None of you can handle the fact that there's a species out there that doesn't think might makes right. He gestured to his fellow humans. We've been keeping the peace in this galaxy for 50 years. We've stopped wars before they started. We've negotiated treaties that saved billions of lives. We've shared our technology freely and asked for nothing in return except the chance to coexist peacefully. The Zephyrian delegate made a grinding sound that might have been laughter. Human arrogance knows no bounds. You act as if you are superior. 2 species that ruled the stars while your kind was still crawling in mud? Superior? Lisa Harper shook her head. We never claim to be superior. We just think that problems can be solved without genocide. The Aquarian representative's tentacles slapped the table. Every conflict in recent memory has involved humans somehow. Where there are humans, there is chaos. This is simple fact. Jake felt something snap inside him. He'd spent half a year listening to these accusations while watching his people work tirelessly to keep the peace. Human doctors treated alien diseases that their own species couldn't cure. Human engineers built bridges between worlds that had been enemies for centuries. Human peacekeepers stood between warring fleets and somehow convinced them to talk instead. A fight? You want to blame us for everything? Jake said quietly. Fine, let's see how well you do without us. The room fell silent. Even the background hum of the station's systems seemed to fade away. You cannot simply leave, the Zephyrian delegate said, his voice less certain now. The Galactic Accord requires all member species to participate in peace talks. Jake laughed. But there was no humor in it. The Galactic Accord that we were never allowed to help, right? The one that treats humanity like junior members, even though we've contributed more to galactic peace than any other species? Looked around the table at each alien delegate. You want to know what chaos looks like? You're about to find out, Lisa. Harper was already packing up their files and data tablets. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from these peace talks and from the Galactic Accord itself. The aliens began talking all at once, their various languages creating a cacophony of sounds that the translation systems couldn't handle. Some were angry, others seemed confused, and a few looked worried. You cannot do this, the hegemony queen buzzed. No species has ever left the Accord. There's a first time for everything, Jake said as he headed for the door. Good luck solving your problems without us. Something tells me you're going to need it. As the human delegation left the chamber, the alien voices rose behind them in panic and anger. But Jake didn't look back. He was done trying to help people who only wanted to blame him for their failures. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for months. All across the galaxy, human ships and stations were ready to implement Protocol 0, the complete withdrawal of humanity from galactic affairs. The aliens were about to learn what the galaxy looked like without human interference. Jake suspected they wouldn't like the lesson. Admiral Ben Clark stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching as thousands of human ships began their journey home. The massive fleet filled the view screen, stretching as far as the eye could see. After 50 years of spreading across the galaxy, humanity was pulling back to Earth in the largest withdrawal in galactic history. Sir, we have confirmation from all sectors, reported Commander Amy Rodriguez from her position at the communications station. Every human outpost, mining station, and colony ship is beginning evacuation procedures. Ben nodded grimly. Protocol 0 had been a theoretical plan that no one ever expected to use. The complete withdrawal of humanity from galactic space seemed impossible just days ago. Now it was happening faster than anyone thought possible. About the medical stations? Ben asked. Dr. Kevin Torres looked up from his tablet, his face troubled. That's where we're getting the most resistance, Admiral. The aliens are begging us to stay. The Centauri plague zones alone have 40 human medical teams keeping the outbreak from spreading. The Centauri plague was a nasty disease that jumped between species. Only human doctors had figured out how to treat it effectively. Without them, the death rate would increase by thousands of %. Orders are orders, Doctor, Ben said, though his voice carried the weight of the decision. All humans returned to Sol Space immediately. On the screen, he could see the medical ship Mercy pulling away from a Zephyrian space station. Even from this distance, Ben could see the desperate alien ships trying to follow it, begging the humans to return. Captain Nina Foster's voice came through the communications system from the disputed nebula. Admiral, the situation here is getting ugly. Fast. The Draconians and Reptiloids have been glaring at each other across the buffer zone for 3 hours. Without our peacekeeping station between them, they're going to start shooting. The disputed nebula had been a flashpoint for decades. 3 different species claimed the gas-rich region, and only human peacekeepers had kept them from full-scale war. The peacekeeping station had been humanity's pride, showing that different species could work together. Not our problem anymore, Captain, Ben replied, hating every word. Bring your people home. Ben watched the tactical display as human ships across the galaxy began moving toward Earth. It was like watching blood flow backward through veins. Every ship that left took with it years of careful relationship building and diplomatic work. Commander Rodriguez updated him constantly. Kepler. Mining colony reports full evacuation complete. It's left all the mining equipment behind, as ordered. Agricultural Station Beta 7 has finished loading their personnel. The alien workers are asking if they can come with us. Research Station Gamma acknowledges withdrawal order. We're asking about the joint science projects with the silicoids. Tell them to leave everything, Ben ordered. If the aliens want our research, they should have thought about that before calling us the problem. The Agricultural Station report bothered him most. Humans had been teaching alien species new farming methods that could feed billions more people. The joint projects had been showing incredible results, ending hunger on dozens of worlds. Now, those programs would die. Dr. Torres brought up another concern. Admiral, we have 17 human teachers in alien schools. Some of them have been there for years. The students see them as family. Ben closed his eyes for a moment. Human teachers had been spreading literacy and critical thinking skills across the galaxy. They taught alien children to question authority and think for themselves, ideas that were revolutionary in many alien cultures. Everyone comes home, Doctor, no exceptions. The withdrawal wasn't just about military and government personnel. Human merchants were abandoning trade routes they had maintained for decades. These routes connected distant parts of the galaxy, allowing smaller species to trade directly, instead of going through the big empires that charged huge fees. Lieutenant Dave Parker monitored the merchant fleet communications. Sir, the independent traders are reporting that alien ships are following them, trying to convince them to stay. Some are offering double payment for continued service. The answer is no, Ben said firmly. What the aliens didn't understand was how much human presence had changed the galaxy's basic functions. Human engineers had built communication networks that allowed instant messaging across star systems. Human logistics experts had created shipping schedules that kept goods flowing efficiently. Human mediators had prevented thousands of small disputes from becoming wars. Captain Foster reported again from the disputed nebula. Admiral, both fleets are powering up weapons. The Draconians are demanding that the reptiloids withdraw immediately. Long until our station is clear? Ben asked. 6 hours, sir. Make it 4. The tactical display showed the situation getting worse by the minute. Without human peacekeepers to maintain the buffer zone, old enemies were facing each other directly for the first time in decades. The careful balance that humans had maintained was crumbling. Commander Rodriguez looked up from her station, her face pale. Sir, we're getting emergency transmissions from across the galaxy. The Aquarians are reporting pirate attacks on 3 different trade routes. The Silicoids say their cargo ships are being robbed by raiders who used to avoid human patrol areas. Ben wasn't surprised. Human patrol fleets had kept the space lanes safe without most people realizing it. Pirates and raiders had learned to avoid areas where humans might show up. Now those areas were unprotected. Any requests for assistance? Ben asked. Hundreds, sir. Everyone wants us to send help. Ignore them. Dr. Torres updated the medical situation. The plague zones are reporting that infection rates are already climbing. Without our treatment protocols, they're back to primitive quarantine methods. They're sealing off entire planets. The human medical corps had revolutionized alien healthcare. They brought concepts like patient rights, informed consent, and treating symptoms instead of just isolating the sick. Now that knowledge was walking. Away with them, sir, Captain Foster called urgently. The Draconians just fired a warning shot at the reptiloid fleet. This is about to get very bad. How long now? Ben asked. 3 hours until evacuation complete. It made a decision. All ships. This is Admiral Clark. Any station not evacuated in 2 hours will be left behind. Emergency withdrawal is now in effect. The pace of evacuation increased dramatically. Ships that had been carefully loading equipment and personal belongings now grabbed only essential items. Years of human presence were being erased in hours. Commander Rodriguez reported the results. Peacekeeping Station Delta is abandoning non-essential equipment. Medical Station 7 is leaving half their supplies behind. The research teams are destroying sensitive data rather than leave it. Across the galaxy, the human presence that had quietly held everything together was vanishing. Trade routes fell into chaos. Medical facilities closed. Schools shut down. Patrol areas became hunting grounds for pirates. Sir Lieutenant Parker called out, "The Zephyrian Empire is requesting immediate military assistance. They say the hegemony is massing fleets on their border." Ben looked at the message, then deleted it without reading the details. The Zephyrians had been among the loudest voices calling humans aggressive warmongers. Now they wanted human protection. Admiral Dr. Torres said quietly, "Are we doing the right thing? People are going to die because we're not there to help them." Ben stared at the tactical display, showing the galaxy in growing chaos. "We spent 50 years helping them, and they thanked us by blaming us for every problem they had. Maybe it's time they learned to solve their own problems." As the last human ships cleared galactic space and began the long journey home to Earth, they left behind a galaxy that was about to discover what peace really looked like without human interference. Ambassador Marcus Wright stood in the observation deck of Earth's defense station, looking out at the stars that had once been humanity's second home. 6 weeks had passed since the withdrawal, and the reports coming in from across the galaxy painted a picture that no one had expected. Dr. Rachel Stone burst into the room carrying a data tablet, her face showing a mix of shock and disbelief. "Marcus, you need to see this. The casualty reports from the Outer Rim are beyond anything we imagined." Marcus took the tablet and scrolled through the numbers. His stomach dropped as he read. 40 million dead in the Zephyrian Silicon War. How is that possible? "It started as a trade dispute over rare metals," Rachel explained. "The kind of thing we used to solve in a week with simple mediation. Without human negotiators, it turned into full-scale warfare in 3 days. The irony was bitter. The Zephyrians had been among the loudest voices calling humans aggressive. Now they were fighting a war that made human conflicts look like playground arguments. Entire star systems were being destroyed over mining rights that could have been shared. General Larry Patterson joined them in the observation deck. His military uniform wrinkled from too many sleepless nights. "It gets worse. The Draconian Reptiloid. Conflict has spread to 12 systems. They're using planet-killer weapons. Actual planet killers." Marcus felt sick. How many worlds? For so far, billions of people gone in seconds. Rachel pulled up another file on her tablet. "The medical situation is just as bad. The Centauri plague has spread to 17 systems without our treatment protocols. The death rate has increased by 3,000%. The numbers were staggering. In 6 weeks, more beings had died from preventable diseases than in the previous decade of galactic conflicts. Human doctors had developed treatments that turned deadly plagues into manageable illnesses. Without them, entire species were facing extinction." "What about the pirate situation?" Marcus asked. General Patterson grimaced. "Complete chaos. The main trade routes are basically no-go zones now. Merchant ships travel in armed convoys, when they travel at all. The smaller species can't afford protection, so they're being cut off from interstellar commerce entirely. The trade collapse was especially painful to watch. Humans had maintained free shipping lanes that allowed small, peaceful species to participate in galactic commerce. Now those same species were being forced to pay protection money to the big empires or face starvation. Rachel brought up a map showing the galaxy's communication networks. Large sections were dark. The communication grid is failing too. Silicoids are demanding payment for every message that crosses their space. Most species can't afford it. Human engineers had built the galactic internet as a free service, believing that open communication prevented misunderstandings that led to wars. Now that network was being carved up by whoever could claim and defend the relay stations. "Sir," a young technician called from across the room. "We're receiving another emergency transmission from the avian homeworld." Marcus sighed. The avians had been sending desperate messages for weeks. As one of the more peaceful species, they were being crushed by their aggressive neighbors. "What do they want this time?" "Military protection, sir. The hegemony is threatening to invade unless the avians surrender their entire food production to feed the hive worlds. The hegemony's expansion was perhaps the most disturbing development. Without human peacekeepers to limit their aggression, the insect empire was conquering everything in sight. They strip-mined planets bare, enslaved populations, and moved on to the next target. General Patterson shook his head. The avians were neutral in every conflict for centuries. Now they're facing extinction because they can't defend themselves. Against the hegemony's war machine? Any word from the Aquarians? Marcus asked. Rachel checked her files. They've retreated to their deepest ocean worlds and cut off all communications. Intelligence suggests their empire is collapsing into civil war. Apparently, different clans are fighting over who was responsible for driving humans away. Even the mighty Aquarian Empire, which had dominated ocean worlds for millennia, was tearing itself apart. Without human mediation, old tribal conflicts that had been buried for centuries were surfacing again. The observation deck's main screen activated, showing Captain Jake Morrison calling from the Luna base. Marcus, I thought you should know. Just received a transmission from Harmony Prime Station, the Peace Talk station. Marcus was surprised. I thought that was abandoned. It was, but someone reoccupied it. 3 different species are now claiming it belongs to them. The Zephyrians, Draconians, and Nebulans are all sending fleets to take control. The symbolism was perfect and terrible. The station where aliens had blamed humans for all galactic conflicts was now the center of a 3-way war. Without human security guarantees, even the symbols of peace had become battlegrounds. Dr. Stone pulled up another report. The educational systems are collapsing too. Literacy rates are dropping on worlds where human teachers worked. Critical thinking courses have been banned by most governments. Human educators had taught alien children to question authority and think independently. Many alien governments had tolerated this only because of human diplomatic pressure. Now, those same governments were returning to old methods of controlling their populations through ignorance. What about the neutral zones? Marcus asked. General Patterson looked grim. All of them have been violated. Now the disputed nebula is now a free fire zone. Now the treaty worlds are being carved up by whoever has the biggest fleet. Every carefully negotiated border agreement from the past 50 years is being ignored. The neutral zones had been humanity's greatest diplomatic achievement. They were buffer areas where different species could coexist peacefully, protected by human guarantees. Now they were simply prizes to be claimed by the strongest, Rachel brought up the most disturbing report yet. The refugee crisis is beyond anything in recorded history. Peaceful species are fleeing to the galactic rim, but there's nowhere safe to go. The outer colonies are being raided by everyone from pirates to major empires. Marcus watched the data scroll by, showing millions of displaced beings fleeing wars that seemed to start for no reason. The galaxy had become a place where only the strong survived, and strength was measured purely in military power. Sir, the technician called again. Another emergency transmission. This one is from the Silicoid Collective. The Silicoids? Marcus was surprised. The crystal beings had been among the most critical of human methods. What do they want? They're requesting immediate human intervention, sir. The hegemony is strip-mining their core worlds. They say their entire civilization will be extinct. Within months, without help. The same species that had called human expansion destabilizing were now begging for human protection. The same beings who had criticized human military presence were facing extinction without it. General Patterson summed up the situation. In 6 weeks, we've seen more wars, more deaths, and more destruction than in the previous century combined. The species that called us violent are committing atrocities that would make our worst conflicts look peaceful. Marcus stared out at the stars, thinking about the galaxy that humans had left behind. They had been called aggressive, violent, and destabilizing. Now, without human presence, the galaxy was learning what real violence looked like. Technician said quietly, "There's one more message. It's marked urgent from multiple species simultaneously. Put it through." The screen filled with desperate alien faces from across the galaxy. Their message was simple and heartbreaking. "Please, come back. We were wrong. The galaxy is dying without you." 3 months after the walkout from Harmony Prime, a single alien ship approached the Sol system, carried a white flag of truce and representatives from every major species in the galaxy. The proud delegates who had once lectured humanity about violence were now desperate refugees begging for help. Admiral Sarah Kim stood in the docking bay of Luna Station. Watching as the alien delegation shuffled out of their ship, these were the same beings who had blamed humans for every problem in the galaxy. Now, they looked broken and defeated. The Zephyrian delegate was the first to speak, but his metal body showed deep scars from recent battles. His voice came through, the translator much quieter than before. Admiral Kim, we may have made some mistakes in our previous talks. Sarah kept her face blank as she looked at each delegate. The Aquarian representative was missing 3 tentacles. The Draconian envoy's scales were dull and cracked from stress. The proud hegemony queen looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. Mistakes? Sarah asked simply. The Aquarian delegate's remaining tentacles trembled as she spoke. Psst. The galaxy is falling apart, Admiral. Trade routes are controlled by pirates. Wars are breaking out faster than we can count them. Entire species are going extinct. The meeting room on Luna Station was much smaller than the Grand Chamber on Harmony Prime. The aliens, huddled together like scared children instead of the proud rulers they had been just months ago. President Helen Davis joined the meeting through a hologram from Earth. Her image appeared calm and professional, but Sarah could see the anger behind her eyes. So tell me, what exactly do you want from us? The silicoid delegate's crystal form flickered. Weekly, we want humanity to return to galactic affairs. We need your help to stop the chaos. Commander Tony Garcia activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked active wars, black areas showed communication blackouts, and yellow regions indicated humanitarian disasters. Most of the galaxy was covered in warning colors. Let me share some numbers with you, Tony said. In the 3 months since humanity withdrew, galactic conflicts have increased by 3,400%. Economic activity has dropped by 89%. An estimated 47 billion beings have died in preventable wars. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. Those numbers represented the collapse of everything they had built over centuries. Dr. Maria Santos, Earth's expert on alien psychology, stepped forward. We've spent these months studying what went wrong. You want to know what we learned? The avian delegate spoke for the first time, her musical voice barely a whisper. Please tell us. Most species develop in predictable ways, Maria explained. You create rigid social orders where the strong rule the weak. You see everything as a competition where someone must lose for someone else to win. You believe that violence is the natural way to solve problems. She gestured to the data on the display. Humans developed differently. We learned that cooperation helps everyone survive better than competition. We naturally look for ways to help others instead of dominating them. We see problems as puzzles to solve, not enemies to destroy. The Zephyrian delegate's metal fingers scraped against the table. But you have wars. Humans fight each other. Yes, we do, Admiral Kim admitted. But when humans fight, we fight to end conflicts quickly and rebuild afterward. When you fight to completely destroy your enemies. Tony brought up more statistics. In every conflict where humans were involved as peacekeepers, casualty rates were 76% lower than your historical averages. Human presence directly correlated with peace, stability, and economic growth. The hegemony queen buzzed weakly through her translator. We analyzed the patterns after you left. Everything we blamed you for was actually you preventing much worse. Things from happening. The trade wars we said you caused. The Aquarian delegate added. They were small disputes that you kept from becoming real wars. Without you, those same disputes killed millions. The Draconian envoy hissed softly. The territorial expansions we criticized were you creating buffer zones that prevented direct conflicts between enemies. Without those buffers, we went straight. 2 planet-killing weapons. President Davis leaned forward in her hologram. So you're saying that everything you blamed us for was actually us helping you? Yes, the silicoid delegate admitted, his crystal form dimming with shame. What we called human aggression was actually the most peaceful period in galactic history. Admiral Kim walked around the table, looking at each delegate. You called us violent warmongers. You said we destabilized the galaxy. You claimed we were the source of all your problems. The avian delegate's feathers drooped. We were wrong about everything. We see that now. Now that your civilizations are burning and your people are dying, you see it, Sarah said coldly. Very convenient. The alien delegates exchanged desperate looks. Finally, the Zephyrian spoke again. Admiral Kim, we formally request that humanity return to galactic affairs. Not as junior members, but as leaders. We want Earth to become the new galactic capital, the Aquarian added. We want humans to take charge of maintaining peace between species. The galaxy needs shepherds, the Draconian envoy said. We have learned that we cannot shepherd ourselves. Consulting with her advisors through private channels, the alien delegates waited in terrified silence, knowing that their survival depended on her answer. Before we consider your request, Davis finally said, I want to hear you say it clearly. What was humanity's real role in the galaxy? The Hegemony Queen spoke first. Humans were peacekeepers who prevented wars before they started. Humans were healers who saved lives across species barriers, the Aquarian delegate added. Humans were teachers who showed us better ways to solve problems, said the avian. Humans were the guardians who protected the weak from the strong, the Draconian admitted. Humans were the glue that held galactic civilization together, Silicoid concluded. Sarah Kim looked at President Davis, who nodded slowly. We'll consider. Returning, Davis said, but it will be on our terms. No more scapegoating, no more treating us like the problem. No more pretending that the galaxy was better off without us. The alien delegates nodded eagerly, relief flooding their faces. There will be conditions, Admiral Kim continued. Human peacekeepers will have authority to intervene in any conflict. Human mediation will be mandatory for all territorial disputes. Human medical and educational services will be available to all species equally. Yes, anything, the Zephyrian delegate said quickly. And President Davis added firmly, there will be a new galactic constitution that recognizes basic rights for all sentient beings. No more slavery, no more planet killing, no more genocide. The alien delegates agreed, immediately. They had learned the hard way that without human civilization to moderate their worst impulses, they were capable of horrors that made their previous complaints about human behavior. It's ridiculous. As the negotiations began for humanity's return to galactic leadership, one truth had become undeniably clear. The species that had been blamed for disrupting galactic peace had actually been the only thing maintaining it. The galaxy had gotten exactly what it asked for when humans left, and the result had been more devastating than anyone could have. Imagine the quiet species that preferred talking to fighting, helping to hurting, and building to destroying, was coming back to clean up the mess. And this time, everyone knew who the real peacekeepers were.